So before we actually do anything important in this episode, I'm going to be showing off my stats, because I am, of course, not going to subject you to all the grinding I did. Because let me tell you, this took me about a week, not like a week straight, of course, but it was really just 7 different attempts of me trying to get the rainbow pudding. And it did indeed take forever, and I did have to restart because I didn't want to be too powerful for this. So yeah, I actually got to the point where I just set on auto battle so that I'd Life's Anthem myself so I could heal constantly, and I also set Rosa to pray. So pray is one of the best abilities Rosa had. I already went over aim, which is a surefire attack that just takes slightly longer to actually activate. It does have a bit of charge time, it's like spells, whereas attacks are just immediate. Spells do take a while to actually be used, as does Bard's Song and whatnot, but yeah, that's aim. She of course has white magic. She has a lot of white magic and she's got a lot of MP. And of course her best ability is pray. I say best ability despite the fact that it did just fail there. That being said, though, while I don't think it was as good in earlier versions, apparently, I don't think it gave you as much HP and MP, or it failed a lot more often to the point where it wasn't useful. Pray here is really good. I'll explain later, though, because, of course, that was the battle where I got the goddamned rainbow pudding. Look at the lack of EXP I got. I got basically fucking nothing, because this took so goddamn long. And look at this! Look at this! She was at level 19 before! Look at this! I hate random drops so much. As a gameplay thing, it's so bad. Look at all the spells I got. Like, come on. It's just annoying to have a rare drop, because I have to sit here and grind, meaning I'm getting a lot more spells than I'm supposed to have, meaning I'm breaking the design a bit, so in order to get the rainbow pudding, they had you undermine the game's own design and balancing, which again, I think is pretty good. Everything's pretty well paced. But I am going to be over-leveled for a while, because I just had to sit here and grind, because this is pretty much the best opportunity for it. And yeah, I have no qualms wasting this emergency exit, just getting the hell out of there. I also missed an augment here, and I'm not going to be using this one either. I mean, I should get it, because you do want to get every augment you can, even if you don't really want to have it, per se. Item lore basically just raises the potency of consumable items. Kind of like the Scholar from Final Fantasy III, but again, not really something I like using. But I do want to save it for later. So now that we're done with that, we can actually move on to the important part. So, welcome back to Final Fantasy IV. Grinding is the worst, but we're past that now. Pretty much for the entire game, more or less. So we arrive on Mount Hobs, our first non-cave dungeon of the game. And this song is, interesting. It's not bad per se, but I wouldn't exactly call it a mountain climbing song, and also it's really upbeat, and I don't know, at the very least, especially for the DS version, the instruments they use are kind of weird, but anyway, I didn't really explain Pray that well. Pray just refreshes a little bit of HP and a little bit of MP. However, it's kind of like the heal staff from Final Fantasy I. While it's not that useful for, like, legitimately difficult encounters where you want Rosa to be doing something really useful, it is useful for small fights like this, so you can just have Rosa refresh everything. At this point, once you get Rosa, you don't have to worry about HP and MP nearly as much. MP especially, because the last few dungeons, especially Underground Waterway, you did have to worry about how much MP you had, but now, as long as you just have Rosa constantly refreshing it, it's really not a huge issue. Anyway, the problem with Mount Hobs here, of course, right off the bat we have skeletons, which of course are undead. They are weak to light-based attacks, like just straight-up light or cure spells. And they're also weak to fire, which we can't use just yet. However, they are, of course, resistant to dark. Now, we do have 4 characters now, but none of them are physical attackers. Cecil's main role is a physical attacker, and he's the only one in the group who has this role. So, thankfully, everyone else has some other abilities that are very good. We now have Rosa, who is even better at healing than Rydia, so she's actually really good against undead opponents. And lovely, another level up. Like we even need it. So yeah, I'm just filling out the map here. Of course, the important thing is this giant block of ice that's just kinda here. Completely for story purposes. Marvin K. Rydia, will you please use fire now? Yeah, by the way, that was us. We kinda fucked up and scarred her for life. Whoops. We can guilt you into doing it, though. Edward, guilt her! Yeah, weren't you the one telling Edward he couldn't cry a few minutes ago? But now, now that Rydia has the problem of being forever scarred by her village burning to the ground, that's more important, and she's allowed to be emotional over that. Way to be a hypocrite, Rydia. Okay, to be fair, she is using fire now, so she got over it, but nonetheless. Way to be a complete dick to Edward. Seriously, I feel so bad for the guy. Again, maybe it's because I'm used to the DS version where he's actually a really good character. I mean, he's not really good at physical attacks. Whacking things with a harp, surprisingly enough, blunt force trauma, not very effective. But other than that, he's a pretty good character. But yeah, I guess it is because I'm used to the DS version where he doesn't run constantly, so that's probably why I don't hate him. And hey, now Rydia's all happy, so that's nice. But anyway, yeah, that could have actually been a legitimately interesting plot point of her, you know, finally being able to use the fire spell. And of course, that would be connected to the trauma of losing her home and her family. But really, the fact that she can't use fire is just used as a roadblock, so you can't go to Mount Hobs too early. So, story-wise, it kind of gets brought up out of nowhere, and it's never really important again. So, that's pretty much the last we'll be hearing of Mist, unless we visit the village, and I forget if I actually do that, because it is completely optional. But yeah, it's kind of just an awkwardly placed plot point that doesn't really matter all that much, and again, is just used as a broken bridge, so meh. So anyway, these are spirits. They are resistant to fire, unlike most monsters, which kinda sucks. They're also still resistant to darkness. They're also resistant to ice and light. Actually, no, they're resistant to ice and lightning, but they just take normal damage from fire, and they are weak to lights. It kinda sucks that spirits take normal damage from fire since we just learned the fire spell. Like, it makes sense that this mountain would be full of undead, because this is where Rydia learns the fire spell. Therefore, now that she has this new power, she is able to be really useful in battles against the undead. But, of course, spirits are very annoying enemies, especially when they're placed amongst other undead. So, yeah, you'll have a bunch of enemies. Actually, no, I'm pretty sure they absorb fire. I remember them absorbing fire. So I might actually be misremembering. I'm pretty sure they just out and out absorb it, actually. Which makes them really annoying when they're paired up with other undead enemies, because it means you can't group attack them. And I don't really care for that at all, because again, you just learn this new ability, and then it's like, actually no, you can't use it constantly. And I did have that one battle with all skeletons, but if I remember correctly, I did cut out a lot of fights, of course, but most of my fights were skeletons and spirits, so yeah, kind of a dick move on the game's part. I got unlucky and just got into a fight with a whole lot of these guys. Oddly enough, gargoyles are also undead enemies, so they're weak to light and resist shadow, so Cecil's still pretty useless. And they take normal damage from fire and whatnot. So yeah, Cecil really isn't all that good for this area. I mean he can tank hits, but it's not like you have any sort of move that draws attacks to him just yet. So yeah, all in all, Cecil, if you have a lot of potions, you should probably have him use those. Even though, you know, Edward is the one with salve, so technically he's more important. But if you want to give item lore to Cecil, I wouldn't suggest it, but he could make use of it here, just nowhere else. And also, by the way, this is a pretty short dungeon. We're going to be pretty much over with it pretty soon. However, we have bombs here. They, of course, have the ability self-destruct. Once you do a lot of damage to them, they will use the self-destruct ability, and their remaining HP will be converted to damage. So, make sure to do a lot of damage to them at a time. I don't think they can use the ability until they've actually been damaged, so use that to your advantage. Otherwise, kill them as fast as possible. They are, of course, weak to ice, since they are fire elemental, and that takes them out pretty quickly, and apparently they lose their teeth before they lose their lives. I don't even know how that works, but it does. Right, so we're almost at the summit, and here we find... Ah! Oh, it's a shirtless dude. Gotta admit, I didn't see that one coming.
Like that. That's a monk of Fabul.
Only people from Fabul only wear pants. Damn. Well, he's certainly hardcore. Great battle cry, sir. Right, so, first battle with this dude. So, use kick. And the enemies are now dead. Bye. Well, that was easy enough. As if he'd have a problem with that. Yeah, I'm still alive. How's it going? I don't know, he seems to have it covered. Actually, no, I shouldn't even joke about this. This is Mom Bomb, the next boss of the game. Mom Bomb is actually pretty tough. She looks like a normal bomb at the moment, right? Well, she has actually got 11,000 HP. And that's not all. So, our new friend Yang here. First off, he's got quite a few physical abilities. He's now going to be a character that can fight alongside Cecil as a physical attacker. That's another reason you're going to want to change Rosa to the back row. I mean, first off, she's bad at being a front row character. Second off, you don't want Yang to be in the back. So anyway, his normal attacks are pretty good, but I use the Focus ability. Focus will raise your attack power. You can store up to 3 uses of it, and unlike in Final Fantasy III, you don't explode when you use it 3 times, which is fantastic. You also have Brace, which is a defensive maneuver that simply enough, it raises his defense. I'm going to be incredibly redundant about that. And, of course, he has Kick, which is a very powerful move that just attacks all enemies. And it also does quite a bit of damage as well. Oh, geez. Okay, you're threatening now. But anyway, yeah, it is a pretty good move. It doesn't reduce his attack power too much, and it does work with Focus. I wanted to call it Brace, but no, that's a defense move. So yeah, Yang, very good character. She's gonna blow! That's the thing you say whenever somebody explodes, so I figured I'd just say it. And whoa, that starts at 3. So, you want to defend right fucking now. I hope you've healed up to this point. It doesn't attack too much and do too much damage before now. But if you're not healed up enough, then this could be very bad. Thankfully, Yang has a ton of HP, so you don't really have to worry about him going down. But yeah, make sure everyone's defended, otherwise this is gonna sting like nobody's business. Oh dear. Let's hope we can get to Yang in time. And we didn't. Okay, this might actually hurt. Okay. Okay, that wasn't too bad. I've had much worse. So we've got a bunch of bombs to deal with, as well as gray bombs. Gray bombs aren't really too much tougher than normal bombs. In fact, all that's really better about them is 222 HP. Do, of course, worry about that due to the fact that they still have the self-destruct ability, meaning they have more HP to kill you with if you don't do enough damage over time. Kick, of course, is a very useful ability here. You might even want to store up some focuses before Mom Bomb explodes. That way you can do a ton of damage to all enemies. So yeah, as long as you don't get too destroyed by Mom Bomb's explosion, this part's pretty easy. However, if you have a few characters drop or fall to critical HP, this is going to be tough just because it'll be difficult to get them back into a fighting position while not having them die over and over again to the bomb's attacks, which aren't too bad as long as you don't attack them first and thus give them the ability to self-destruct you. Part of the reason, though, that this was so easy was because I did inadvertently grind due to the rainbow pudding. Personally, I would have preferred to be a lower level, so this is a little more dramatic, but whatever. I guess the rainbow pudding did have its advantages, but whoever requires me to have the rainbow pudding, I am going to have to punch them whenever I find them, because I hate them with all my hates. However, I do not hate this man with all my hate, because this is Yang, who has now officially been introduced, even though we've known his name for quite some time now. My girlfriend's dead. I burnt a village down. And her mom's dead. Sorry I killed your stand. Or her stand, rather. Your stand's just this weird nerd with a bow tie? Like, seriously, how did you get such a boring stand in comparison to your mother's, who was a dragon made of mist? Oh, you know, my mother's stand was a mist dragon. Mine is a nerd. Oh well, so we get Yang, and now we have a full party of 5 characters. This is why Final Fantasy IV is great. You get 5 characters in your party. God, I hated it in Final Fantasy VII when they started limiting you to 3. This game gives you 5. Oh man, and of course you noticed by now, it makes pretty good use of the Rose, because we have 2 physical attackers and 3 not really magic users. Edward doesn't quite count as magic. He's semi-magic, but he's still not physical, so 2 front row people, 3 back row people. It works out perfectly. Again, I will talk a little more about the way Final Fantasy IV balances itself out later, but yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty really good. That being said, though, we are done with Mount Hobs, meaning we're done with this part of Final Fantasy IV. So, next time, we're going to go to Fabul and warn them of the inevitable attack that's probably on its way pretty soon, actually. But of course, we'll just look at his abilities that I've already talked about. Yep, they sure are abilities. Okay, saving time. See you next time.